Good morning and hello, my friends. Hello, hello. So, what is it for today? Let's get into it, shall we? Hello, my friends. Now, we've already covered the idea of building a role-playing character, right? Yesterday I talked about, okay, well, you have to build a character of your ideal who, right? They call it your avatar in the business community world, right? It's who is the ideal person that you want to solve, right? And then you've got who it is that you are or that you want to become that you're not, right? So what role do you have to take on in order to be able to serve your people in the same kind of way? Do you have to take on the role of God or a god king like Gilgamesh, or the idea of, if you want to be like Jeff Bezos and just rule your company, or do you want to be like Tony Robbins, or do you want to be like Dean, or do it's like, who do you want to do? It can be real people, it could be dead people, it could be imaginary people, but who do you want to embody as an amalgamation of who you are? So when you're thinking about what you are not, right, where your holes are in your personality and the sort of things that you need to understand and overcome, and you have your ideal customer and what ideals they're going to have to overcome in order to relate to you in your ideal kind of way. So you get lots of ways you can interact with different types of people in order to get them to either become your ideal person or to be able to reach them where they're at. So that way what you get up to doesn't have to worry about being a conflict of congruency. So just some questions that you can ask yourself is, if I have these sorts of things that I'm doing, how is it that I can then become some other thing that I'm going to do it with, right? What role do I have to assume in order to help this person better? And if you can't help them, you can't help them. You just straight up, you can't. But you can find some way to provide a resource or to provide something, so that way when you are in a position to be able to help them, because either one, your offer wasn't what they were looking for at the time, or just because that's what they're not really in the market for. It's like, that's cool. But that doesn't mean you could stop. That doesn't mean you should stop. Like, you have that goal, drive towards it, right? And so while you're doing those things, consider creating a mastermind group that takes on different aspects of the role in relation to what you want. Like, this is where it gets fun to play with planetary behavior sets, right? You've got a set of characters and a set of behaviors. Do the behaviors match the set of characters? And if they don't, how do you get the characters to match the behavior? Or how do you get the behavior to match the character? So these are the questions that I ask. And trying to fit puzzle A into puzzle B using the methodology back and forth between, it's like, in there you can figure out your congruency. In there you can figure out, okay, well, I'm going to have this persona I'm going to take on, and I have to match and show up as this person here. So that way what you do, how you do it, why you do it, and as you grow, right, you get to do these kinds of things that allow you to interact with people in a different way, in a kind of more fun way. So it's not just you as a talking head, it's you in collaboration, right? So figuring out the holes in the relationship, go back to asking the questions of behavior. If your avatar is going to behave like this on a Monday, what are they going to behave like on a Tuesday? What are they going to behave like on a Wednesday? What are they going to behave like on a Thursday? What period of the year should you focus on these kinds of conversations versus what period of the year should you focus on these other kinds of conversations? And so when you can break it down into what you should talk about, who's going to be most receptive to it, you can start to have a bigger conversation. You can start to have the conversation of people that are born under the solar signs, or people that are born under the lunar signs, or people that are born under the other star signs, right? They all carry elements of themselves within each other, right? Each within each, but divided up by degree. So when we examine the planetary aspects, when we examine the elemental behaviors, when we examine the astrological behaviors, And we look back and we try to figure out, okay, well, this person identifies as a Sagittarius. These people are known to have these kinds of behaviors. During this time of the year, I can specifically talk to them about this, because according to the history books, this is that time of year where that person was most engaged in these conversations. This was what was on their heart. This was the period of time in the year, right? But now that's fixed state astrology. So that way, when you apply that sort of thing to business, you get a deeper kind of understanding of behavior modification, so that you can understand and you can focus in on, and like I said the other day, there's that acronym for focus, right? So you go find the niche and you figure out and observe what they're missing, and then you provide them some content. And then you develop their understanding in relation to the content, right? So if you're coming out of left field talking about shit that they have no clue on, well, that's a great way to start. It's like, okay, well, let's play a game, all right? I'm going to try to build a business with you while you figure out what it is you're going to do, what it is you're going to serve, how it is you're going to serve, who is going to serve, right? But what do you need to do in order to be able to match to that capacity? Do you need to have more confidence in front of a camera? Do you need to have more community-driven events? Do you need to be more willing to give up useful information so that you can serve people so that they know you're not full of shit? Straight up. And if you don't, you won't, or you will not. That's your choice. It's just how it goes, right? But when you bring people together, when you build out these mastermind communities, and if you build it into a game system, who serves who for what, you can play with each other. You can figure out, well, this is the behavior that I would be if I was thinking like this person over here, but I need to get this thing over here done. How do I do that? And then the storyteller or the person who's in charge of the game that afternoon would be able to say, okay, well, you're doing this over here. This person over here has a service you need, but you need to be able to figure out how would this individual interact with this service over here if there wasn't an established language pattern. If you had no reason to connect with them, why do you want to purchase with them? Why would you want to engage with them, right? Short answer is you wouldn't. Not unless you had some need, some understanding of what it is that you're going to offer, why it is you're offering it, and why it's so frickin' important that you do, right? At least you got to make the attempt. You got to be able to be up and out and doing. You have to be able to demonstrate something so that as you go through and as you develop, you've got something that you've delivered back, right? So that's a game you can play with yourself when you're looking to improve portions of your personality. You can do this with your personal life. You can do this with your professional life. And you can do this in mastermind groups to help other people really nail down their business so that as they do these things, they go deeper with them. And as they go deeper with it, then you're able to coach on those gap fillers, the bridge builders, if you will, right? You're able to figure out, okay, well, this is over here. This is a service that everybody could use. Well, how do you get it niched down enough for everybody to use it in their various season, in their various type of behavior patterns? So what does a Libra think versus what does a Sagittarius think? What is, and if you break it down by these kinds of established behavior models that people love to identify themselves in these days, you're able to figure out, okay, well, these people respond to this kind of behavior. So if I use the words that respond to that behavior in my signature talk, in my community, in my messaging, and so on, then it provides a through line of communication. And then you just have that talk in a different way with the other astrological signs, right? So that way you can build out your repertoire of engagement, and you've got specific things that you can focus on and ways to divide the pie, so that way when you're talking to these people over here, you'll say it in a slightly different way when you talk to these people over here. So the entire conversation becomes mutable. It's all about the words that you're using and the meaning behind the words, but it's not necessarily applied in the same kind of context, right? So behavioral attributes versus planetary attributes versus intentional manipulation of information as it comes out of your mouth, you are intending it to reach these people where they're at. You are speaking directly to them because that's what the behavior is. That's what the observed behavior patterns are and have been for hundreds of years. So if you're like a Taurus, if you're like the Libra, if you're like the Virgo, if you're like the Capricorn, then those are behavior policies. Those are behavior operations. And just because you happen to be born in that time of the year doesn't mean that that's how it's going to necessarily be for you. It just means that generally people that are born from those periods of time have this kind of focus and behavior. Right? You can link it back to behavior studies. You can link it back to community development. You can link it back to other aspects around what it is you're talking about. So that as you go through these kinds of things, you can go deep, and it's going deep into the behavior of that person, of that individual, which lets you start speaking into their spirit. You get to speak and you get to elevate. So that's why it's important that you study it from a place of faith, because if you don't, and you just come at it from a space of manipulation, then it becomes evil, then it becomes dark, then it becomes twisted, because you're not doing it for them and their benefit. You're not trying to elevate them, you're trying to specifically use them to get your thing sold, which is a wrong way to go about doing it, in my opinion. Yes, you can do it, but should you do it? No, not really. You should have the power to speak, and to speak direct, and to share directly with the people that are concerned about those types of engagements, so that when you build out postings, and I'll be demonstrating this over the next 12, 13 days or so, I'll go through and I'll make sure that every time I'm talking, I have a different aspect of what it is I'm saying, so that way we can go a little bit deeper into these kinds of personality behaviors, into these kinds of understandings. Okay, well, I'm going to elicit a fiery response from a water person. What do I have to do? Well, I have to shit on anything that's, I have to get them mad, right? I have to get their passions up, make them steamy, right? Well, how do you incent somebody who is by nature a Pisces, right? Like, how do you get a Pisces mad? You go after the family, you go after the things that they love. Well, how do you get them to be mad in a good way? Well, you give them something that they can direct that anger towards. So a Pisces, in this case, to be angry about the lack of education, to be able to deliver better education systems, then you'd be able to set it up to where, all right, fishy, here's a boiling lake of water, this is the problem, let's go fix it. Right? So how do we get them to act? Because, again, the behaviors, the negative behaviors is inaction. Their active behaviors are quick, decisive action, but the bad follow-through. Like, it just depends. And those are personality traits. Those are behavior patterns. Those are understanding that the person that you're working with, the person that you're serving on the other side, has a life and a vibrancy, but their core motivations that either they're unaware of or that they're not fixing, right? Like, we can do all the astrology stuff all day long, but if you don't address the elephant in the room, then you really can't do anything useful to solve for that problem. Like, the first thing I do with people that are studying the ceremonial magic, the ritual work, right? They want to do the rituals themselves, or they want to learn how to do it. We have to start with your astrological foundation, right? Because you pull from the celestial power first, then you pull the planetary, then you pull the elemental, because then you're connecting to the earth beneath your feet, and so everything funnels down into the body, right? And so as you build your connection to the elements here, and you build yourself up, and you build yourself out, it becomes the overlay of the pyramid. The bottom, nice and long and wide, with the top nice and long and wide, and all the apex comes to both you and you at your feet, and you at the top of your head, so that the entire body creates a pillar of energy, and from that energy you have congruency, right? And you're naturally aligned by the ritual work that you do, the spiritual work that you do, with the physical application of that. So as you're going through and you're building your brand and you're building your business and you're doing all of those things over on one side, you have all of the things energetically supporting you to give you the energy and the motivation to understand that you represent something so much more than just the business that you're in, or just the thing that you're trying to do, or the thing you're trying to sell. So it becomes the mirror reflection of who you are in the type of business that you do. So if you do good business, then your business do good, your personality becomes good, you're serving, you're being of service. So that's why it's important to know the different roles and to know the different influences. Anyway, I hope that helped for today, and tomorrow we're going to get into it a little bit deeper. So bye for now, y'all.